I'm Dave Middlebrook on The Law and You. And join me today for today's episode where we're going to dive into the issue of hacking, part 2 of our series about strategies that you can deploy to make your phone safer, your computer safer, even your workplace safer. This is really important stuff, and I look forward to you watching. This is Dave Middlebrook here with The Law and You, and I'm so pleased you could join us today because we're going to be unpacking a really, really important topic that affects all of us, and that is how to prevent getting hacked. Isn't it funny, that word hacked? It just sends, when I say it, it gives me goosebumps. And nobody wants to get hacked. Mm-hmm. Caleb, thank you for joining me. Caleb is our IT guy. I thought his last name was IT guy. But his last name is Green, Caleb Green.
Common misunderstanding. Common misunderstanding.
Common misunderstanding. And he is my go-to guy. He's our firm's go-to guy. And so I had issues about how to avoid hacking. Mm-hmm. I, of course, reached out to Caleb, the IT guy. Yeah. And so he's going to help us today talk about this important topic. You know, Caleb, in episode 1 of this series on how to prevent getting hacked, we talked about some common terms, and I'm just going to revisit those. So people, if you're not familiar with these terms, you can go back and watch that episode for sure. We talked about black hat hacking. Mm-hmm. It's a mouthful. Phishing, which is spelled P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G, I believe, not typical phishing. 3 was two-step verification. 4 was VPN, virtual private network. Mm-hmm. And then 5, encryption. Mm-hmm. So with that as a backdrop and with that information, let's talk about some practical things that folks can do to begin to protect themselves against hackers. And for you guys watching, understand hacking is an illegal activity. It is akin to someone breaking into your electronic home and burgling your belongings. And they can get all kinds of valuable information. Now, we talked about this earlier, and that is my impression, and I think you agree with me, we're kind of in the Wild West right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening, mm-hmm. but there's not a lot of great law enforcement, right? Why is that? You mentioned the fact that most people are overseas, et cetera, so it's hard to track them down, even if you're the FBI. But I would tell folks, if they are hacked, before we dive into this, should you be hacked, don't be reluctant to reach out to law enforcement. Generally, in the state, it's either the Secretary of State or the Attorney General. You can reach out to local law enforcement. If you live in a large metropolitan area, they oftentimes have cyber crimes divisions. It's important to reach out, and you can also reach out to the FBI, obviously. Yeah. But it's important to reach out because there are trends and there's things that's going to and be informative to law enforcement and help you possibly, but also help other folks from being hacked.
Preventative future. Exactly.
Preventative stuff. Okay. So let's talk about, I'm going to throw some stuff out to you, and I've got a cheat sheet here from one of our state's attorney general, and it's a document for lawyers. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how to protect yourself, and I'm going to ask you to comment on some things they say.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So first up is protecting computers and laptops. They say make sure your security software is up to date. How important is that?
Oh, it's critical. It's crucial. If you don't update your system, then the old vulnerabilities that have been discovered by the hackers are still present. So the whole purpose of the updates are to remove and assure up your system's protection.
So if you're using a Mac in Cupertino, or if you're up in Seattle, if you're using a Microsoft product and they've been hacked or they've seen some problem, they'll create a fix, right, for that, and then release ultimately an update, hopefully to fix that vulnerability. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yay. I'm understanding this. Okay. The second thing that they ask, or they state in here, is that you should install antivirus and anti-malware software. First of all, what is that?
Oh, well, so antivirus will protect you from viruses getting onto your computer through programs, through malicious. It's a malicious attack trying to destroy your system or cripple you in one way or another.
Okay, so malware, is that just an abbreviation of a malicious attack?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Software to prevent malicious attack. Okay.
Yeah, and viruses can be under a form of malware. It's malicious software or a malicious app.
And if it seems like we're spending a lot of time going over definitions of things, the reason for that is when I was doing my study and getting prepared for our session here today, I realized that just like lawyers or doctors, you guys have your own language, your own lingo. Yeah. And if you don't know it, it's very hard. Stuff just go right over your head if you don't know where malware is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important to talk about those issues and those definitions.
Yeah.
Another thing that they say in here, Caleb, is to disable connections when you aren't using them. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, basically, you have a computer turned on, right? And it's running 24/7, right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, it makes it vulnerable 24/7. So if you're not using the connection, they're saying
shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes good sense. All right. The next one, very important, is protecting your cell phones. We spent a lot of time talking about cell phones in the earlier episode, but most folks today have a smartphone of some type, right? And in it is, again, their electronic life in many ways. So how high, when you rank protecting a desktop computer or a cell phone, which one is higher? Are they saying?
Well, I'll say this. Cell phones have built-in security, encryption. They're built in. The data on them is encrypted as long as you got it passworded. Always password your cell phones. But I would say, really, I would be more worried about a desktop computer. Okay. And I know that's probably not what you would expect, because more people have cell phones than they have passwords. Everybody knows on your phone you put a lock on it, right?
Yeah,
or at least you should. And the data on that's encrypted, but your computer's not always encrypted.
Sure. Okay. You used the word lock, which triggered in my mind, and we're not promoting brands here today, but there's LifeLock, and there's other vendors like LifeLock out there. So they're basically personal insurance to prevent or to pay if someone gets hacked. Is that right?
Well, more specifically, if there's a loss of finances or trying to get back, recovery is what I think they promote recovery insurance to get you back to where you were before. So any penetrations that were financially impacting or cause your credit score to go down and stuff like that, then they actually address that.
But even with those services out there, even with some of the things that you said are built into the phone, it's still, there's nobody that is untouchable, right?
Oh,
and a couple things. You mentioned the story about the president of LifeLock advertising his Social Security number. Tell that story.
Oh yeah. So he was trying to broadcast the quality of his service, and he put up his Social Security number on the side of a bus and said, try to hack me, and
How'd that go?
Didn't fare well in his favor.
He got hacked?
He got hacked, and it wasn't good. But.
Well, I was watching a movie, a documentary recently, and it really struck home to me how vulnerable we all are. Mm-hmm. And it describing how Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, the wealthiest man on the planet, I think.
Oh yeah.
You would think he has an army of Caleb's around him, protecting him, right? And his phone got hacked, leading to the disclosure of very private information that ultimately, I believe, according to the documentary, led to him getting a divorce. So all is lost, right? I mean, if Jeff Bezos is getting hacked, we all are vulnerable.
Well, he's probably a high target. They're a big fish. They were looking
literally. Okay. So there is personal insurance out there of some kind. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily liability insurance, but it provides for some protections, and we would encourage people to check that out, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned one thing that we've not talked about really at all in the first episode, and I want to pick up on it. You said make sure you have a good passcode or a number sequence to enter. Like mine is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the best one, right?
Definitely want to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay, so talk about the importance of that, and also, is it necessary to change those?
Change it, yeah, definitely.
Okay, talk about it. Let's talk about it.
When it comes down to your passwords, you definitely want to change them regularly. You don't want to keep the same one over and over because one, people are looking over your shoulder sometimes. You never know, who's actually there. So, friends, family learn it, and you get someone angry or you have something like that. Then it's just best. It's a great practice to change your password. And if somebody's trying to attack your password even, and they don't know you, and they've got your device and they're trying multiple combinations, to keep it complicated, that's a huge one.
Okay. One thing that brings to mind for me is we talked about in the prior episode electing always. You said always elect for two-factor verification. Is that right? Verification. Yeah, two-factor. And the second thing that I encounter, because I admit I'm an Apple guy, I live in the Apple universe, use an Apple iPhone, is they'll give you an option of 4 or 6 digits for your passcode.
For your unlock, yeah.
Tell me about what your feelings are about that.
I would suggest doing the 6-digit just because it's more complicated. Someone can't just guess at 1, 2, 3, 4.
You have to go to 5 and 6.
Yes. Yeah. You add in a couple extra.
You got to keep going, and that throws everybody off.
Everyone gets confused.
Another thing, and I've not had the opportunity to ask you this question, but if you live in the Apple world, and I'm sure it's the same in other iPhone systems, ecosystems, we have the App Store.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go out on the App Store and I'm going to download some business app or what. I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Et cetera. Should I be concerned that they could be bad actors, or are they vetted in the Apple world?
You'd be surprised how many programs or applications get into the App Store that are actually not good. They're full of adware, and sometimes they've been hacked themselves.
Okay, new term. I don't know what adware is.
Oh, just ads.
Oh, just full of ads.
Full of ads. Yeah.
Particularly if they're free apps, right? They're gonna somebody's getting paid.
Yeah, but some of them can take over and just you bombarded with ads even when you're not using your actual application. Okay,
so that's the good and the bad news of this magical device we call the smartphone. I mean, there are vulnerabilities. We talked about it in length about Wi-Fi vulnerability and things like that. So we'd encourage you to watch the prior episode, but also to just beginning to think about how important it is to take a breather and do things right, because there is a real risk. This is not a theoretical risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's real. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk now. We're going to switch from phones to internet connected devices. So that would be, where there are routers, and there's, mostly we're moving towards desktops and even into company environments, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you mean like as printers and stuff like that?
I guess, it's stuff that's in your home. It's things that are out, televisions, appliances, all kinds of stuff that they're going to need the same kind of care and attention to before you just hook stuff up, right? Yeah. Could be a security system, et cetera. And some of those, and we talked about it earlier, but we were shopping for a refrigerator, and one of the questions that was asked is, oh, by the way, do you want your refrigerator to be connected to the internet? And for the life of me, I don't know why they would want to do that, but what is your thought about that?
Well, I mean, with that, there's another term that I guess I could throw out there. It's IoT, or Internet of Things. It's a whole bunch of internet devices.
Yeah, INOT, Internet of Things.
IoT, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just internet device.
Okay.
Right? So you have like a smart plug or a smart light bulb, right? Potentially an Amazon device or Alexa.
Oh yeah.
One of those.
We didn't even talk about those things that are on all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one of the things is if you don't configure some of these devices properly, they themselves are meant to be connected to. Right? But when you connect them to your network, and they don't necessarily shut down that connection, right? The ability to connect them.
For me, it's a little spooky. Like when you move into a new environment, you're setting up Wi-Fi. Say you've moved to a new house or whatever, and you're saying, okay, I want to set up Wi-Fi, and then it lists all your neighbors' Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of drives home the point that we we need to be careful.
Yeah, your network is accessible not just from inside your home. Exactly.
Okay.
So,
all right, let's talk about this issue about suspicious emails. I mean, is that the Trojan horse? Is that the way that these hackers get in primarily, is through emails?
Yes. I mean, it's the most common one. It's most frequently they'll send phishing emails and whatnot. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we skipped over the fact that in the corporate world, there's cybersecurity insurance.
That's correct.
Right. And so if you have a business and you've not looked at your insurance policy recently to see whether or not you elected, and you have to elect to get it, the addendum or the rider to the insurance policy that provides for cyber security insurance. My experience for clients that have been hacked, I'm interested in what you have to say. It's unbelievably important.
Oh, it is. Yeah, because it is so hard to chase those hackers down. You know, to recover your losses. That insurance is pivotal. It's really, you need that.
Yeah.
Because after you recover your data and you get all your systems back up and running, you also then need to get the actual whatever losses you've had back. So that insurance definitely helps with that.
And this, this happens to big companies. I mean, that gas company on the East Coast, that was held for ransom, right? To get back to my Wild West analogy, they're holding victims for ransom, and they felt like they were going to have to pay, or it would shut down their business.
Yeah, and they do. They have to pay. I mean, if they don't get that key back from those hackers, then all their data, all of it, unless they've had an offsite backup, of course, is held at ransom, and they can't unlock it because it would take an incredible force of act of God to get that unlocked. Honestly.
Yeah. And it's a business. That's one thing I learned when we were working with on our client situation and talking to the FBI. I just didn't realize it's a business. I mean, in these countries, there's people. Even some of them are franchises. I mean, literally, you can come in and buy in and go out fishing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and try to get victims.
Oh, it is terrible. It really is horrible how just elaborate and how large, the paramount they are overseas, especially.
You got a nightmare story you want to share with us?
Yeah, I've got plenty of those.
Okay, well, bring one on. That's time we need to hear it.
One of my clients, there's nightmare and silver lining to it.
Sure.
One of my clients has over 400 clients as well, right?
Right.
And they were attacked with ransomware from overseas. They came in one morning and they saw on their server it said, this computer's locked. The only way you're going to gain access is by emailing this email address with this amount of money, or with sending this much to a Bitcoin address.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. So cryptocurrency.
Okay. Cryptocurrency.
It's the most secure and private way these hackers are able to receive funds.
Right.
But so I go. They called me immediately. They're saying, "What do we do? What's their steps that we need to do?" One, I let them know, unplug everything, from the internet, disconnect it, and then two, we need to call the authorities, and three, I had an offsite backup,
right,
ready to go for them.
Talk about that. Is that important?
Oh, it's incredibly important. If you don't have an offsite backup, if these people get a hold of your servers, right, then you have no way of bouncing back, getting all that data back without paying. And in the end, my client didn't have to pay I think it was like $35,000, or it was up there.
A lot of money, yeah.
It was more than he would have been able to pay at the moment.
Sure.
But he didn't have to pay that. We reported it to the authorities. They told him he had to send a letter to all of his to all of his clients, letting them know of the intrusion. But I had them back up and running within probably about 6 hours, 7 hours, because I had that offsite backup.
Well, that is a great silver lining.
Yeah.
Caleb, you said something that I want to hit the rewind button and talk about a little bit, and that is the importance of having off-site backup. We were talking in the context of businesses.
Yeah.
But post-COVID, man, there's the whole definition of where the business is and who's responsible for this, that, and the other has changed. A lot of people working from home.
Yeah.
So walk us through what I need to do to have the security of off-site backup.
So basically with the offsite backup, it's saying that it's going to take your data that you have on your computer and it's going to save it either on a remote server or possibly to a drive that you can bring offsite. of literally taking the data from that site to another secure location. So if anything happens, it's secure and safe, right? So
Okay.
you have a backup, right?
And can that be in the cloud, or does that have to be a physical device?
Most of the time, it is a cloud,
Okay.
Cloud-based. So what will happen is, for instance, for you actually have an offsite backup. You know,
I go see it regularly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that thing.
exactly. Yeah. So the offsite
Not
backup,
really.
the offsite backup is generally on the cloud, right? So you take all your data on your computer and it backs it up nightly or weekly to the cloud on on the internet. Just
Gotcha.
and should anything happen to your computers in your office or at your home office,
Okay.
right, then all you do is you wipe it, you download your old data, the most recent backup, and you're back up and running. It's really that simple. So,
Really that simple. Really that important.
oh, it's incredibly important. If you don't have it, then like my client that I told you about before, if I hadn't set that up for them, they would have been having to start from scratch or pay the ransom. That's really what
Okay.
happened.
All right. So the next thing here, and I find this really interesting because I do this all the time. I'm beginning to perspire because I'm violating many of the Caleb rules. Got to get my house in order. Be cautious with save my information for next time. I do that all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
What? Come on.
Yeah,
Tell me
you don't
about
ever
that.
want to do that.
Don't ever want to do that.
No.
Okay.
So the way it happens is if you have somebody who physically gets to your computer, right? Say someone comes behind you, you walk out of an office or you're at a coffee shop and you run to the restroom or something like that, go get your coffee. Someone snatches your laptop or your gets to sit down on your computer. They just get into your browser.
Okay.
And they actually get to click on your passwords and they can reveal all your passwords, right? With no hacking experience at all. And it really makes you incredibly vulnerable. The only other solution to save your password, your information, is to have like a password manager that's secure. I use one myself for Dashlane, or there's a couple others that.
So that's important.
Yeah.
My wife tells me that regularly. So I need to do that. Get it passed. And folks watching should consider doing that as well. Not just an app, right?
Oh yeah, it's just an app that's secure. It basically encrypts your passwords to make them safe. So you can save them, but they're encrypted. So that way it prevents anybody from coming in behind you, just sitting down.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would still be a good.
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, still avoid that one.
All right. So the next item they have is they're talking about if your device or your online accounts are hacked. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Worst thing has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You got hacked. You were at Starbucks. You got hacked some other way. You answered that email you shouldn't have. What do you do?
Well, first thing you want to get disconnected. You want to disconnect everything and then start changing passwords. You want to change your passwords as soon as possible.
Disconnect means unplugging and taking out. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, disconnect from the internet. So there's no more internet access.
Okay.
So you get disconnected from the internet. If your computer's the thing that's been hacked, the second thing is you need to start working on resetting passwords, notifying the appropriate authorities, and getting everything secured, making sure two-factor authentication is turned on, making sure all your passwords are unique and complicated, and work towards shutting out any potential additional threats.
Now, in the movies, you take the laptop, put it in the microwave, it goes crazy. I don't have to do that, right?
No, yeah.
No, I didn't figure I'd do that. That sounded kind of fun. Okay, so then you're going to have the devices inspected by a professional, I would think, right? I mean, you're going to do something.
I mean, it's always good to have a professional look at them because if there is some remnants of the malware that was not removed by your programming or wasn't caught, then it's always for the best.
Okay.
Especially.
And so you had mentioned earlier, we're blessed to have you. Our firm is blessed to have you, our IT guy, Caleb, the IT guy. But there's other resources out there for folks. I mean, it's not that expensive to get a professional to help someone personally these days, right?
Not at all. Yeah. You can find reputable IT companies all over the place.
And don't be embarrassed. You've said that so many times. Don't be embarrassed if you got hacked. Another thing they recommend here is to monitor your financial accounts. And that's because you don't want people taking your money, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They keep an eye on it because they might sneak out little small amounts that you wouldn't even notice normally,
Okay.
So.
And I would say this as a lawyer. I mean, this is a crime. We've said it multiple times, but just again, because we see this in the news or read it in news headlines and we hear the term, oh, hacked all the time, doesn't change the fact this is a violation of the law. This is a burglary, if you will. Something that's a breaking into your electronic home. And so don't be reluctant to notify law enforcement. I mean, that even if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm a little embarrassed about this or whatever, just do it because they need your help too, right?
Exactly.
It's part of being a good citizen.
Definitely.
So the other questions I had for you is in terms of if you were to do a recap for us, just in terms of practical things that you would say to someone about their phone, the big takeaway, I guess, would be the VPN.
Yeah, VPN. I mean, VPN on your phone, definitely make sure, make sure to change your password regularly, your access lock.
Okay, what does that mean regularly? How often do you change your password?
I mean, I change mine personally every month.
Okay.
I change it monthly.
Like at the top of the month, you just change your password?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So when you pay your bills, change your password.
Gotcha.
Make sure that it's unique and it's complicated enough that you can't. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. You're just gonna walk up to it. Also, keep track of your old devices too. Your old phones. That's a big one.
Okay. No. Tell me about that. I mean,
well, a lot of people don't keep track of their old phones. So you have a phone, and a phone that's just extra, has been sitting in a drawer. Well, then someone just goes and discards it, throws it away, or something that, well, that's not really recycling, but they just throw it away, and someone's going through your trash, or a hacker. That's another type of hacker who's looking for information in your trash, and they pull out a cell phone that's old, they charge it up, and they've got your personal information on it.
Okay, so you should do what to make that go away? I mean, if somebody gets a hold of my old phone, it doesn't matter because I've wiped it?
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
Well, you wipe it or destroy it. Yeah, those are
microwave?
Sure, you have some fun. Enjoy that microwave.
Yeah, they do that all the time, man. It's kind of cool.
Each and put some in the microwave.
It's better than the cat, okay? Better than the cat.
That's fair.
But so you're going to destroy it or wipe it to make sure it's safe. And that's just you should make that just part of your normal process when you upgrade or you get a new piece of device.
Definitely at least wipe it, bare minimum.
Okay.
Do a factory reset on it, make sure to get everything off of it, and then either surrender it to wherever you want to surrender it to.
Okay. So. And we talked about insurance. There are companies out there that provide for some measure of insurance in case you are hacked. And so we would encourage you to look at that if you're watching today. And then we talked about desktop computers and company-based computers.
Yeah.
I reminded everybody just to get their insurance policy out and make sure they have cyber liability coverage. Which is impressive. I mean, my experience has been super impressive. I didn't know that there are law firms out there that's all they do all over the country.
Yeah.
It's like deploying the Marines, when they get involved in something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not that expensive.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. I'm interested why carriers, homeowners, and why they haven't offered some stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's not my world.
Yeah.
So the big takeaway for the desktop is, I heard you say, making sure you have a remote backup.
Remote backup, and make sure the encryption, the encrypted actual data. That's the one other thing. I don't think we actually got to talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
There's on Macs there is an option. It's called Firewall, I believe it's called, where you actually turn it on.
Firewall?
Firevalt.
Firevalt, okay.
You turn that on.
Obviously, I'm not using that, so I don't know what that is.
It's turned on.
Firevalt, okay. Is it turned on?
It is.
I'm obviously using that, very, very comfortable with it.
And
what does it do?
It basically encrypts your computer, so that way no one, if there's a physical loss of your computer.
Okay.
So say your desktop is stolen or your laptop is stolen, if they get a hold of your computer, then they can get the data off of it, right? So if you encrypt it, then they still need that same encryption password to decrypt it, to gain access to it. And if they don't have that, then they're basically have nothing but a paperweight.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Just rubber meets the road scenario here. And this happened to me recently. It's all me, my bad. And I was terrified for quite a period of time until I got control of where my iPhone was. But my wife and I were rushing to get an early morning ferry, and I don't know how exactly, but my iPhone fell out of my carry bag, got on the ferry, ferry's headed off, and I'm like, oh, where's my phone? I check it on my watch and dead. And then I realize some taxi cab guy that I don't know in some far off city has my phone. What's the worst case scenario that could have happened there?
Well, worst case scenario is if you didn't have a security lock on it, right?
Yeah, everybody please. Everybody does that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Apple makes you. I might be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So with that said, if that was the case, then that would be big. But second possibility is someone figured out your password and was able to get on there, and then if they figure out your password, you're in trouble. Because they have your finances. Like you said, it's got all your information. It's your lifeline. It's got your email, your account information, your banking, everything's on there.
Okay.
So you're in a lot of trouble. But your best bet with that was there are things in place to like Find My Phone.
And I could have wiped it,
You
right?
could have wiped it remotely.
Okay, talk about that for a moment, how that works.
So the way it works is you can log into Find My Phone on the iCloud, and you can actually log in and wipe your phone remotely, which will completely clear it. So if there's anything on there that could be private, or that is private, or that banking or anything, it will be deleted, which is a great feature for iPhone. That's why I have my iPhone too. That's why it's more secure it is than Android. Now Androids do offer the same function, but you actually most of them you have to install an additional security app in order to do that.
So Android users, make sure you've installed that additional security app. And Caleb, thank you so much for joining us on The Law and You and sharing with us your expertise. I will tell you, I have things that I'm going to do right after this broadcast that I'm not doing to better secure my electronic devices and help prevent hacking. And for everybody watching, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions about it or you have issues you'd like for us to discuss in the future, you can drop us a note at the email address below. Until next time, I'm Dave Middlebrook on The Law and You.